exquisite, aren't you? The artisanship on there. Unparalleled. I'm sure I'll be able to find a home for you very soon. Oh, hello. No, please come in. Welcome to Andora's Jewels. I'm Andora, and these are my jewels. Here you'll find the finest array of high quality and unique jewelry pieces in the bazaar. Possibly in all of Ifendel, although I admit I haven't really had time to check everywhere yet. Now, if you would like to leave a jewelry stall bathed in diamonds, there are plenty of booths around the bazaar here where you could find something like that. I tend to approach jewelry a bit differently. You see, I appreciate the fine details, the fine stones, the cut and clarity and things like that, just as much as the next jeweler. But I prefer pieces that tell a story. Unique, one-of-a-kind stones cut by the most skilled craftsmen that I personally know. Or pieces that are so unique that they really, by all logic, shouldn't even exist. That's maybe a bit confusing. Perhaps I'll show you what I mean, if you're interested. Now, did you have something in particular that you were looking for today? Just looking, just seeing what's out there. Excellent. You're actually my favorite kind of customer. It's nice to be able to, sort of feel out what you're looking for, and I always love showing off some of my favorite pieces. Now, I'm sorry if this is a bit impertinent, but have we met before? I thought so, but not here at the bazaar. I haven't been here all that long. We met somewhere else, didn't we? Eshon, that's right. You came into my shop in the inner ring of Eshon. It's quite a while ago. Yes, I'm doing quite well, as you can see. Turns out that one of my customers in Eshon was pretty familiar with a few people of the council of the Ifendel Bazaar here. You have to get invited in order to have a stall at the bazaar, so it's quite an honor. It was not something that I was ever expecting. I was content with being in Eshon, but the day that the invitation was hand-delivered to me, it made quite the stir in the inner city, I can tell you that. Anyway, it's quite different selling here in Ifendel as opposed to Eshon. It's a little overwhelming at times, if I'm being honest, but absolutely amazing. It's just a completely different experience. Anyway, I'm sure that you have found that Ifendel, the city, is also a completely different experience from your journeys to Eshon, right? Right. Well, I hope that the Lady Fate has been kind to you since the last time we met. Good. Now, since you don't have something particular in mind, would you mind if I just sort of pick out a few of my favorite pieces? Some that I think that you may particularly like? Wonderful. Why don't I grab a few of those then? I'll show you what I have, and then we'll go from there. Okay, go ahead and have a seat. I'll be just a moment. Alright, now I've selected a few of my pieces here that I think you will particularly enjoy, especially if you're looking for jewelry that tells a story. So let's start with this one, perhaps. This is a collection of beautiful stones here. It tells a story of far-off places. The larger stones here are topaz. These two are Brimaxian blue topaz, mined from deep within the mountains, near the north of Maladia. And then they're both custom cuts by the master cutter, Julian Moser. He lives here in Eifendel. Now, he describes his approach as an attempt to capture the brilliance of the stars in his cuts. And you can see aspects of the radiant cut here, but no two cuts of his stones are identical. He says that he takes each rough stone out with him at night and centers his focus on whichever star he feels drawn to most strongly while holding a particular stone. He then meditates on how to interpret that star into the cut. The next morning, he makes a rough sketch of the planned geometry and goes to his cutting wheel. And you can just see the artisanship here. He's got these piercing blue stones and he just makes them sing. Look at the play of light in these. You can really almost feel the stars speaking through these cuts. This octagonal one in the center here is obviously the real showstopper. Look at the depth of color in that stone. Of course, that's only achievable because he really did have a great, deep stone to work with. Now, some people prefer a shallower cut with their gemstones because you get more surface and more facets out of the rough. I can understand that. But cuts like this really have very little surface per carat. Some may see them that as wasteful, but it's really the only way to get this magnificent color. Rather than directing the light back out, a lot of it remains within the stone and creates almost a glowing effect. Now, another local cutter took inspiration from Moser and he cut this gray topaz for me from some rough that I acquired. This is also from the Brimaxian. Their topaz is the most sought after in the kingdom. I happen to love topaz, and I have a special supplier for this kind of rough stone. So, rounding out this side of the necklace, there's more topaz. This blue is a little more typical of the blue that we get out of the foothills. I always think of it as looking like the sky before a storm. And then there's this little round cut white topaz inlaid in bronze there. And then this little amethyst over here. I like to get my amethyst rough from Kanjagar. They have some amazing gems in general, and their amethyst is my absolute favorite. I buy every carat of Kanjagari amethyst I can, and it's never as much as I'd like. There's a little one over here on this side too, this amethyst here. It's an interesting color, not exactly typical of the Kanjagari product, but it spoke to me. Now this green beryl is also from Kanjagari. Green beryl is the same stone as emerald, but the term emerald describes only green beryl of a certain color range. This one isn't deep enough to be an emerald. It's still lovely though, and this one is very clear. A lot of the green beryl I get is pretty full of inclusions, but this one is very, very easy to see. Now, possibly the most interesting stone on this necklace is actually this little fire opal. I'm not sure how it came by its name. It's not actually a true opal at all. What's unique about this stone is where it comes from. This little bead right here. These are only found in the caverns of the wilds. They're formed under pressure from ancient lava flows. Apparently there have been a few large specimens unearthed, but I've only ever seen these little tiny ones. It's quite the story, though. Hundreds of thousands of years. Pressure, 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 creating these beautiful stones, each one unique. It's a very unusual color, too. There are other orange stones, but none with quite this intensity. Anyway, all of these very unique stones and the beautiful cuts, that sounded like something that might pique your interest, so I'll keep that one close by. Now, here's another stone that definitely does not lack in intensity. This is Kanjagari amber. Now, usually we don't see faceted amber like this, the stones that have been cut to shape, because amber is a very soft stone. In fact, it's really not a stone at all. It's hardened tree sap. And in almost all cases, if you try to cut a piece of amber, it just shatters. We usually just polish it and use it in its abstract shape. But there's a specific kind of tree in the ancient forests of Kanjagari which produces an amber that is hard enough that it can be faceted. I think what's most fascinating about this piece is how much of this exact color they were able to select out of the rough material. Color matching for stones is an art all of its own, really. You can see there are some smaller, rounded cuts here, and then some rounded cuts that are a bit bigger. And then these are marquise. Now, marquise is a very efficient, I guess you could say, cut. It's a good cut for maximizing the amount of rough material that's preserved in the final shape. Now, this pendant is in a very interesting Y shape here. So you can wear this part, closer up towards the collarbone and then have this trailing down. It's a lovely piece. Definitely would turn some heads. Now, if you like that shape, I also have a very interesting tassel necklace that's inspired by the intricate stone carving of Balamara, the ruins of a palace outside of Baywood. Look at that. Look how lovely that open work is there. And the pendant. How daintily it's been carved. Now this is set with featherstone to stay with that feel of Baywood. I love how it moves. It's as if it's just flowing. Tassel at the bottom there. It's a really wonderful piece. Just lovely. I actually just acquired this from a very unique shopkeeper named Maisie. Now, she was of the belief that this might be enchanted. It isn't, of course. It has to be inspected by everyone before it's, sold to Knifendale, so it's unfortunately not enchanted. But it is a fine example of Baywathian craftsmanship, so I was happy to add it to my collection. Now this is another very interesting piece here. it's almost sort of a contradiction because the style of it is very casual. It's more of a charm necklace kind of style, which is usually seen as, a little less formal. But the stones that are used here are unimaginably high-end. These are gems that are often used in crowns and other works created for monarchs. Really is something very, very special. So we also see some very exquisite stones from the bottom axe here. These rubies, this one especially. I don't know how much you know about rubies, but the clarity and color of these stones, I almost can't believe that it even exists, especially in private hands. These are definitely very, very old stones. Nothing that's been mined now has this clarity. Not even close. This is an eye clear ruby. That shouldn't exist. It just shouldn't. But here it is. Same with the sapphire over here. It's clear to the naked eye. That's something that you just don't own unless you're someone like nobility of some kind. Now, as that happens, rubies and sapphires are actually the same kind of stone. Some deposits are red and some blue. There are yellow sapphires as well. Those have a very interesting color. Now the amethyst here, this dark purple stone, is much more typical of the color of most Kanjagari material. And these are, in fact, from Kanjagari. And then, of course, we have some actual emeralds here. See the depth of color there, how deep that green is. Just lovely. Especially inlaid in the gold like that. It really makes the color pop. Now, something that's very surprising about this particular piece, and a piece that's already full of surprises, is that they chose to use so many of these stones in more of a rounded form. It's called a cabochon instead of faceted. Now, generally, you would see stones like this faceted so that they, sort of catch the light in the different angles. But there's something really beautiful about the depth, the real richness to the cabochon like this. You can really appreciate the color. And then these exquisite examples. It's not surprising. And then this also has some lovely little gold charms here too. Like I said, it's very interesting. It's a more casual style of jewelry, but with such beautiful, rare stones. It's almost a contradiction, but a very, very happy one if you ask me. So, I do have some very fine wares. They're just visually interesting art, on top of being very rare and exquisite. And of course, every stone has a story. Not everyone likes that, but I sure do. Now, I do also have a few rings that might interest you. Here we are. Picked out some of these. This one is one of my favorites. It's a lovely bronze ring there. You can see the beautiful pattern. And then it's inlaid with these 5 little white topaz stones, also from the bottom axe. It's lovely. It maybe doesn't have such a striking appearance as, say a ring like this that just has the one stone on it. But there's something very beautiful in the subtlety of it. And of course, the intricate carvings of the bronze here. It's very unique. And if you like that, I do actually have a 3-strand necklace that's also set with white topaz and some pearls from around Tivermac. It's a much more classic collection of stones, but the strands here make it anything but classic. It sort of hangs down the neck. Little swirls. A little more simple than some of the other pieces I showed you, but nevertheless still very lovely. You can see those white topaz just catch the light beautifully. Now back to the rings. If you're in the market for a ring, I do have some choices in both silver and bronze here, just depending on your choice of metal. This one, I love the little design here. It's inlaid with just some very, very little topaz again. It's a bit of tasteful sparkle. Not too much, but just a little bit of sparkle to catch the light on your finger there. Ooh, I also have this one. This is a gold and kyanite ring of dwarven make. Dwarven jewelry is not nearly as common in these parts anymore. Apparently it used to be, but of course, since relations with the dwarves have been a little testier as of late, we don't get quite as much of their beautiful craftsmanship anymore. But this one, I love the carvings on the side here. It's very, very lightweight, very delicate actually. It's rather thin, still quite strong because it is dwarven. No one knows how they can get metal to be so thin and yet so strong, delicate and dainty. You know, often you think of dwarves and you think of, these big, brusque, hardened warriors. And there are definitely some that are like that, but their craftsmen are some of the most patient and gentle with their hands. It's incredible. This happens to be a personal favorite of mine, especially because it is dwarven. I've got a few other rings here. Now this one, the silver one here, this is crafted by a local silversmith, not too far from the market here actually. And it's got a lovely onyx stone in the center there. You can see it's been polished so that it really catches the light. Not faceted, again, this is more of that rounded, almost cabochon, but it looks almost bottomless, if you ask me. Onyx is a lovely stone to set in jewelry. And then I do have a few other designs of rings that are a little more focused on the metal work and not necessarily gems. This one, it almost looks like a little crown. See? So, those are a few examples of some things that I have. I do also have some lovely brooches here. I'm not sure if you're in the market for a new brooch for that lovely cloak of yours, but I do have quite a few different designs, different sizes. This gold one here, it's got a bit of a braided look almost down here at the bottom. And then of course on the clasp up here too. Very detailed and yet not overly flashy, I guess. Just intricate and very lovely. Or if you're looking for something more in the bronze family, it would look quite lovely with the color of your cloak there. I do have this one as well. The carvings here are a little more substantial, but the size of it keeps the piece still very tasteful, I would say. This is one that if you're wearing it though, you will definitely catch some attention, especially from nobility. they would notice something like this. Or if you're looking for something just a bit simpler, but still beautiful in its own way, I have this rose gold piece. Just the simple bar here with some little hatches on it. There's absolutely beauty and simplicity too. Absolutely. There we are. Well, that's a few of my favorite pieces anyway. You know, my inventory turns over so quickly being here at the bazaar that I'm finding a new favorite almost every day. But those are some of my personal favorites for right now anyway. And some that I thought that you would appreciate, a traveler such as yourself. So, were there any of these pieces that spoke to you specifically today? Oh, an excellent choice. That is truly a very unique piece. Well, I hope that you, or whomever it is that you're buying it for, will thoroughly enjoy that. I'm glad to see it going to such a good home. Well, here, let me wrap it up for you. This one, I have 15 gold on. Wonderful, thank you. It really is a steal for such a unique piece. There we are. Let me just wrap this up so it's nice and safe. That should keep it safe on your journeys, wherever it is that you're going next. Big adventurer like you, I'm sure that you don't stay in one place too long. Right. Well, pleasure doing business with you. Perhaps the Lady Fate will have our paths cross again someday. You never know the turns that fate may take. Well met, traveler. See you later.